Welcome to the 5-7 podcast. I'm your host, Pri, joined by my co-host, Mike Salinas.
Good evening.
All right, today we're going to be doing a podcast on masculinity, or you can call it toxic masculinity. So earlier I read an article on Fox News. I don't always read Fox News, but Jocko Willink wrote this article, and I'm an admirer of him for what he's done for this country and his podcast. So I'm going to read the article that he wrote because I think it's important for people to read, and then we're going to discuss the article. Gillette debuted its We Believe campaign aimed at combating toxic masculinity. Critics of the ad are already upset with Gillette for what some feel is an insulting message that assumes misogyny is rampant among their customer base. Boys and men shouldn't follow the advice of a recent report by the American Psychological Association called Guidelines for the Psychological Practice with Men and Boys. These guidelines imply that traditional masculinity, such as stoicism, competitiveness, dominance, and aggression, are harmful. These guidelines are wrong. Stoically controlling your emotions is necessary. Competitive spirit drives success. Dominance and the mental and physical strength required to dominate is far superior to a lack of strength, which results in being dominated by someone else. And aggression is a means to an end. Without aggressive action, you will likely be on the receiving end, bowing to someone else's aggression. Of course, it would be nice to conjure up a world where those traditionally masculine traits are outmoded and unnecessary. Perhaps in that fantasy world, everyone could just let their emotions spill out. Instead of competition, in that imagined world, everyone would win. Rather than looking to dominate in this imaginary realm, everyone would collaborate and live as equals. And finally, in this fictional domain, aggression would not stand and people would simply hug each other and get along. But that world doesn't exist. Would it be nice if it did? Sure, but it doesn't. The world is a hard place. Life is tough. Human beings are not always benevolent and kind. You cannot count on charity, tolerance, and compassion. If you show your emotions, you might get taken advantage of. If you make emotional decisions, they will likely lead you in the wrong direction. You lack competitive spirit, you will probably lose on many fronts in being hired, promoted, negotiating a salary, and even in finding a romantic companion for your life. Finally, if you are not aggressive, you will not be able to capitalize on opportunities. Good things in life don't just appear on your doorstep. You have to be aggressive and make them happen. Failure to do so will result in missed opportunities. Instead of you being in control of your life, life will be in control of you. So be stoic, be competitive, be dominant, and be aggressive. But it isn't that simple, and this is where things become difficult. It's important to not go too far with any of those traits. Just as Jocko wrote in The Dichotomy of Leadership, which he co-authored with his SEAL teammate Leif Babin, a leader must strive for balance, and a man must do the same. If you turn your emotions off completely, become overly stoic, you will not be able to connect with anyone. You will not be able to lead because people do not follow leaders who show no emotion. Furthermore, if you shut off your emotions, you will not feel the joy and happiness that drive you toward success. You will lack the positive emotions that make life worth living. If you are too competitive, you can be driven to the point where you cannot enjoy anything. You'll obsess over winning and drive yourself crazy. A loss will crush you. You'll be tempted to commit immoral or illegal acts in order to win in the short term. Those infractions will come back to haunt you. In the long run, you will fall apart. The will to dominate must also be tempered. If you focus on dominating in all situations, it will not work out well for you. If your goal is to dominate, you won't listen to other people and will thereby miss out on other ideas and thoughts that might be superior to your own. Over time, you will wear out your welcome, damage relationships, and expend all your leadership capital. No one likes to be around people who require everything to be done their way. Lastly, if you are hyper-aggressive, you will burn yourself out. You will take too many risks, burn too many bridges, and use up all your ammunition. As a leader and as a man, you have to be able to recognize when it is time to back off, when it's time to retreat, reorganize, and reload, so you can come back to fight another day. This list of dichotomies continues on endlessly as a leader and as a man. You have to have balance. You must be courageous but not foolhardy, decisive but not dictatorial, open-minded but principled, disciplined but not rigid, So don't listen to the media telling you to suppress your masculine traits. Don't listen to commercials conveying that acting as a traditional man is bad. But at the same time, don't let those traits or any other drift to the extremes. You will fail as a leader and as a man and as a person. Instead of balance those dichotomies that pull you toward one extreme or another and pass that balance on to your sons and your daughters as well. These so-called masculine traits aren't just for men. Jocko Willink is a retired Navy SEAL officer, author of Extreme Ownership, Discipline Equals Freedom, Field Manual, and the Way of the Warrior Kid series, and hosts the top-rated podcast, Jocko Podcast. He is also the co-founder and CEO of Echelon Front, a premier leadership consultant firm. So, after reading this article, I couldn't agree more about what he said. Because in life, you need to be able to when you get your opportunities, to jump on them and pounce on them and try to seize the day, carpe diem. And you're not going to be able to do that if you don't believe in what you're doing, believe in yourself, because going on about your day in a somewhat aggressive manner to accomplish your goals, can help you in accomplishing in those goals. Instead of saying, is it okay if I come over here and help on the project? You can come in and say, and assert yourself in a way where you'll be accepted as, hey, I have a few ideas for this and I want to lay them out for you. And I think that that's just an example of, how you can assert yourself properly. What do you think, Mike?
I found that to be, I don't know, to me it's kind of like self-explanatory. I understand he had to say something and he felt enthralled to do so and I think, was this all based upon this ad? Is this what stems from?
Yeah, I believe so.
Ad? Yeah. But in what I was following, it was kind of hard to follow because it feels like he was telling us to do it, but don't overdo it. Do it, but, hold your piss, but don't hold it too long. You need to stretch out your bladder, but don't do it. Don't hurt yourself. Drink water, but don't overdo it. Eat meat, but don't eat too much meat. Is that kind of what just live within standards, within reason? Is that kind of what I was hearing?
What I think he's trying to say is that, you can't go 100% into anything because, it's just too much. There is such thing as, too much of a good thing. And, say for instance, you're on a date and the girl, if you're too nice of a guy, you're going to go into the friend zone. But if you're not a nice guy, you're kind of like a creep. Do you know what I mean? Like you have to have that balance, balance in the middle.
Sure.
If you run a marathon, you're not going to sprint the whole time. You have to manage your energy and get a good pace. So.
No, I think I agree with having just total balance, and that's kind of, I think, what he was trying to say, is just be balanced. And I'll be honest, when I seen that Gillette commercial, I didn't get offended or I didn't feel any sort of way. To me, all it was saying is don't be a douchebag. Sure. They got a guy grabbing a woman's ass just randomly. Some guy's trying to holler at a chick, and he's like bending to the side with like a sort of weird lean. A bunch of kids are beating up on one kid. Some fights going on, and the parents are just laughing. Like, I don't know, man. Those aren't characteristics of a man.
Right.
Those are characteristics of a doucher. So how about, hey, Gillette should just say, hey, man, don't be a douchebag. Use our products.
Sure. Yeah, and they're selling razors, and I think the ad just kind of came out of nowhere. And do they think that they're the people who use their products are these type of men? I would say maybe 50 or 60 years ago, like this kind of behavior was more prevalent, but I don't think it's really like that now. Not as bad as it was, I would say 60 years ago, but there's always been bullying. They showed a kid getting bullied. There's always been bullying, and there's always going to be bullies. That's just the way that it is.
Right, and they're more active than ever about non-bullying, all these non-bullying campaigns. These were never around 20 years ago or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I never heard anything about non-bullying, don't be a bully. People would just be like, hey, man, stand up for yourself. That was kind of the way you were supposed to handle things. Stand up for yourself. Don't be a little biatch.
Yeah, and when that comes around, when you learn to stand up for yourself, you get your self-confidence,
Yeah.
And then when you get your self-confidence, then you can assert yourself properly. And I think that people don't. I think people are missing that lesson, that life lesson, because there's a tons of life lessons in life. Like when you're a baby, or you're a kid, and your mom's like, "Don't touch that. That's hot." And then you touch it. You're like, "Okay, I just learned what hot is." It's like I shouldn't do that because that's what it is. And I think people are missing out on these life lessons, or kids are missing out on these life lessons because of these kind of helicopter parents. Mm-hmm. And so when the parents aren't there anymore, these kids are out there and they're imitating learned behavior from things that they've seen on shows or TV or the internet. I mean, you can get anything on the internet nowadays. So in a way, kids are getting unfiltered content from the internet. I'm not proposing that. I'm not proposing violence, but sometimes when you get a bully, they respond pretty well to a knuckle sandwich.
Yeah, if your son came home one day and said, "Dad, I got this guy, man. He's just picking on me day in and day out. I don't know what to do. He's bigger than me." What would you tell him?
I tell him, if you want, make sure that he doesn't bother you anymore, and then take it from there.
Like, would you say, hey, if he's touching you, if he throws that first swing at you, you handle him, or do you tell him, hey, did you let the teacher know, like, this kid is just being a little prick?
I think he'd know from my statement.
Yeah.
So, because I get it. Teachers have a job to do, and
right.
it's a very difficult job, and bullying's a big deal because it's just not in school anymore. Kids are getting bullied on social media. So, back in the day, you could come home and then it was over, and that's like okay. And when you go back to school the next day, it was on again. But now, they get out of school, they come home, they get on the computer, they check their Facebook, and boom, there it is again. It's like nonstop, 24/7. So yeah, it could be. I think it could be very intimidating for kids these days, and I'm sure that it's more traumatizing. But there's one good way I know to handle bullies, and sometimes telling the teacher isn't the answer.
Don't be a little prick. Just don't be a prick. That's all you gotta do.
Yeah. So back to the masculinity. Do you think that beta males are the culprit to this kind of wave of maybe attack on masculinity?
Yeah, I think so. I think people are taking it completely to the extremity, though. I guess what betas are just passive dudes, I guess, right? Just that don't.
They're like
they can't stand up for themselves.
I wouldn't say that they're passive. I would say that they don't have self-confidence. They don't stand up for themselves.
Right.
They're kind of they're like, oh yeah, sure, whatever you want. It's like, what do you want to do? Oh, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, but it's like funny. The beta males get attacked, but then they're attacking the other males, the masculine males with these ads, right? Or supposedly attacking them. I mean, I think you're supposed to be a guy in the middle. Just don't be a wuss, and don't be a jerk.
I don't know why it's come to a point where it's a bad idea to stand up for yourself. It just seems like
why this is even a conversation. I don't understand why people are even making this a debate.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know.
Why are they taking stand? Why do people got to take a stance on everything nowadays? We need to stand up for something.
Yeah, I think I guess there is kind of an attack on masculinity, though. In a way.
Sure. Yeah, man.
It's not okay to be. It's not okay to be an alpha male these days.
No. And I think it's really not okay to be a white alpha male.
Yeah, I would.
I think they're coming under some serious heat right now.
Serious scrutiny.
Yeah.
But you know what, man? when the shit hits the fan, who are you going to stand behind, an alpha male or a beta male? Because I'll tell you what, a beta male is not going to lead the charge.
No.
If you're ever in a shit situation and you need help from somebody, you're going to get it from either an alpha male or an alpha female. And that drives to my next point, is that they're talking about these traits of aggressiveness, stoicism, and yeah, they can be bad in some contexts, but these are traits that women can have too, and I don't think that it's bad. I don't think it's bad for women to be competitive and to be dominant, and I appreciate that, because a lot of these women that are like that, they get the job done, dude.
Sure.
And they don't they don't take any bullshit. And I can really appreciate that. So
I like working with those kind of those kind of women that are just more driven and just all about the business, man. Because sometimes I say what you will, but I run into a lot of women that they use their looks to get by, or because they're in a more masculine dominated workplace, so they utilize what they can do. If they talk a little bit more, and they're just more used to engaging outside of the workplace. And the guy's like, hey, what are you doing for lunch today? I don't give a shit what you're doing for lunch today. So I appreciate women that are like that. That's pretty cool.
It's got to be difficult, at the same time, for some of these women that are, that they're working hard, and they're out there kicking ass, and at the same time they've got these these douchebags that are still trying to get their attention, but then again, isn't that what it's what humans are, whether you're at work or not, aren't the men trying to get with the best female, and then at the same time isn't the best female trying to find the best provider?
Yeah man, as long as you do it in the appropriate way. I mean, would you like to go out with me on an evening of dinner and a movie? Absolutely. Or you could just grab her ass and then say, hey, look, we're going to the club.
You'll get into a lot of trouble doing that nowadays.
Yeah.
A lot of trouble.
Shit.
Actually, that might be your paycheck, right? Well, no, that would probably be your job.
I can't believe people still do it. Like, people are still getting caught being douchebags.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah, it's probably like a personality, not a personality disorder, more like they're just being douches. It's real douchey.
Yeah, they just think they're above it, man. Like, how much I make in a year? I can do what I want.
Yeah, and then she's like, no, you can't. It goes right to HR, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much our discussion. We just wanted to kind of touch base on this. Kind of popped up on the radar today, and thought it could lead to a nice little discussion. But you got anything, Mike?
No, man. That was just a little sum up here for a Saturday night.
All right, cool. Everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend, and have a good one.